Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the 24th meeting of the Rotary Club of Louisville. I'm Ken Salvati, president of the club, and ESPN Louisville. Paul Harris, fellow +2. Providing our invocation today, Steve Jester, retired pastor of the Second Presbyterian Church, club board director, co-chair of the Gun Violence Reduction Committee, Community Impact Council, and vice chair of the Invocation Committee, and a Paul Harris fellow.
Thank you, Ken. As I was coming here today, besides cursing the traffic, I live up by Ballard High School, and that intersection of 42 and 260, yeah, all right. And then I got to downtown on 65, and guess what? 2 out of the 3 lanes are closed, so I'm glad to be here. As I was thinking about our speaker today and what he does for others and as a vocation, I started thinking about teachers and people that are wise who've been a part of my life. My mother, who, though she didn't get her GED until she was in her 40s or 50s because of circumstances, but made sure that I read a lot. I think about a 7th grade teacher who taught me to love literature and to have a discipline when approaching it, and changed the way I thought about that. I think about a college professor who first got me excited about biblical studies and what that could lead to, and then a seminary professor who is the smartest, most energetic, and interesting person I've ever met, and how all of those people helped shape my life through the life of the mind. And that is what we are gathered here today to hear about, and I think, and to celebrate. So let us pray. Holy wisdom, the one whose ways are not our ways, whose thoughts are not our thoughts, who despite our best efforts remains a mystery in the end, a glorious mystery. Thank you for those who have brought your wisdom to our lives, for mentors and teachers and administrators and all who help us dig into the deeper places of life and who are opening our eyes to that which makes life meaningful and wonderful. Thank you for opportunities to use our minds in ways that bring life to others, that bring life to this world. Open our hearts and minds this day and give us grateful hearts that we may hear your word to us through those who speak and who live your wisdom. Amen.
Thank you, Steve. Angie Bailey is in traffic, but Steve just mentioned. So, Ashley Brower's going to come on, give us a 4-way test and play.
Thank you, President Ken. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now the 4-way test.
Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build the goodwill of their friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you, Ashley. Rotarians will be our guest today in our nice, cozy quarters. Please come up to the microphone. There you are. Introduce your guest, and the guest would stand when they are introduced.
Yeah, again, this is Kurt Jacobs. I run a multimedia program called Moxie Talk with Kurt Jacobs, and I invited my nephew, not my son from another mother, probably some resemblance, but he's a fresh graduate from Trinity High School, not 1 but 2 state championships on the football team, and he's going to attend, guess what, Morehead State.
President Ken, my guest today is Hal Thomas. Hal is a retired attorney but more important, he's a graduate of Morehead.
President Ken, my guest today is Kelly Moda. She is the Regional Vice President of Operations for Empower Youth Office. And the Morehead
Hi, fellow Rotarians. I'm Brave Shelby, a new member of Rotary and writer, communications consultant, and I brought as a guest today my son Leo, who is like our other son, he's a rising senior at Morehead State University.
Awesome.
President Ken, Melissa Cobb with Santa Rosa downtown, and I have the privilege to introduce Dan Whitus today as my guest. I'm privileged to have you here with us, and actually already knows a few folks, so I'm grateful to have you. He's with First National Bank and specializing in providing wide grant solutions for commercial and residential construction clients. I'm also privileged enough, thank you for joining me today, Dan. Privileged enough to like to introduce Mr. Brett Rosenblum. Lead Water begins with empowered women, water by women. He's the Chief Development Officer. We're thrilled to have him. This is his second meeting, so we hope he'll join us at a third, fourth, and fifth and on. Thank you so much for being here.
Welcome to all our visitors, and you're welcome to stay for a few minutes after the meeting and join us at our What is Rotary table to learn more about who we are and what we do. Speaking of who we are, Josh Suter, I think you're in the building. If you want to stand and be recognized. Maybe not. Josh has accepted a new position at Indiana University Southeast as the Director of Alumni Engagement. Dan Maloney with the Zoo was recently the keynote speaker for the Louisville Suburban Rotary Club. And Max Bridges is going to be one of the new members for the Louisville Leadership Rotary class of 2026. Quite an honor. And we're always excited to have a new member today, but our new member today, you know, because she spoke with us not that long ago, Deborah Politsky. We love to see our club membership grow and impact and influence, spread the spirit of Rotary throughout our community. And you've been elected a member of our club because we believe you possess the qualities that will lead you to exemplify what we just did, the 4-way test, true spirit of it. You've not only been admitted to the 13th largest Rotary club in the world out of 45,000 clubs, but you can go to any Rotary meetings anywhere you are in the world, any of those 45,000. Rotary membership adds value to those who engage. A lot of our folks do that, not just by attending meetings and events, but participating in service projects and sharing your knowledge and talents and living out our motto of service above self. So come on up and tell us more about you.
Wow, thank you. Well, I was just here in April, and I'm sure a very thorough bio of me was presented at that time. But for anyone who missed that presentation, I'm Deborah Politsky. I'm the Executive Director of Waterfront Park, and I am very pleased and honored to be among the membership of this great organization. I'm told to give a little bio about myself. I am not from Louisville. I grew up in southwestern Pennsylvania, but I claim Louisville as my home. I have been here the majority of my life, came for college, and then attended law school here and pretty much have never left. So practiced law for about 21 years in both the public sector and the private sector in the real estate and land use and development fields. And after 21 years of practicing law, I decided I needed a change and went back into public service, spent a little bit of time with the local metro government, and then joined the Waterfront Development Corporation Waterfront Park in 2018, became the executive director in 2019, and very, very honored to carry the torch that was lit by my predecessor, David Karam, and carried for 33 years, to carry on the good work of this organization to reconnect the community with the river. What was once an abandoned wasteland, contaminated, blighted area that was completely inaccessible is now downtown Louisville's most visited destination. Very highly celebrated, nationally recognized, award-winning park and home of the best river walk in the country. I'm also pleased to be leading the Phase 4 West expansion, which I presented a little bit of information about at the April meeting. We just opened our first section, Clayport. If you haven't been there, you definitely need to go. I talked to a few people who told me they went after my presentation in April, so thank you. Keep going, keep supporting. This is a community-supported project, and it takes all of us to make it happen. So thank you so much for giving me the microphone and giving me a moment to address
The time you have.
We are excited to have you in our club. Great to have our guest speaker today, a former fellow Rotarian for nearly 15 years in Murray. So he knows the drill and knows about service of himself as he lives it. He's got, he and his wife have 3 children, 2 still in elementary school, so he's already grooming them to be Morehead State University students. This will be his 9th year as president, so by the time they get there, you'll be well into your teens serving. Your focus is on student success, performance outcomes, academic excellence, as well as university rankings and responsiveness to the region. Dr. Morgan previously served as the statewide chief academic officer and vice president for academic affairs and student success for the Kentucky Council on Post-Secondary Education in Frankfort. He has also served as the provost and vice president of academic affairs at Murray State University, as well as the associate provost, university faculty region, leadership program director, graduate program coordinator, a professor, and teacher educator. And his career has included roles in business and as a high school teacher and coach. What sport? Golf. He holds a PhD from Oklahoma State University, a BS and MS from Murray State University, and completed a graduate track for school superintendent, as well as a certificate in management from Vanderbilt University. And he served as the board chair of the Council of Presidents of the D1 Ohio Valley Athletic Conference, as well as the board chair of the Pioneer Football League. And he's a former Board of Trustees member of a medical university, a vice chair of a public university board, an economic development board, a bank board, the Kentucky Educational Professional Standards Board, administering public school teacher licensing and education standards, and on several foundation boards and state financial boards. His public service has included 4 terms as an elected city council person, a board president of a chamber of commerce, a board chair of the United Way, and obviously a former citizen of the year. Welcome to Dr. Jay Morgan.
Well, thank you, Ken. You're very kind for that introduction. Some would have just used that as toilet paper. So you're very kind to read that, and I ask you to please shorten it. You know, it's a pleasure to be with you here today and speak before Rotary. And I had the pleasure of talking to President Ken a little bit before the meeting, and he said, "Doc, you feel free to talk as long as you want to today, but our members are leaving at 1 o'clock, whether you're done or not." And as a former Rotarian, I certainly understand that and respect it. Matter of fact, we used to kind of joke when I was a member of Rotary, the fifth part of the four-way test is do you end at 1 o'clock? And people will remind you, and I certainly understand that as you kind of swerve in your seats a little bit as we get close to that time. It's good to see some students, some prospective students and alums, and Lori, a former member back there, used to be a little training school on our campus a couple of years ago, and many of you may have spent some time on our campus, either good or bad, but we welcome you to return at any time. I do realize that I'm an Eagle in a room probably full of Redbird fans, and that's okay. We'll maybe let the Birds team up against the rest of the state today and join forces some. But it is a pleasure to stand before you today, not only as a Rotarian, but as an educator, trying to educate and train young minds and leaders for our state. I do want you to not be too critical on me today as I speak, because I never was a very good public speaker. Matter of fact, in college, I had to take public speaking, and I made a C, and it wasn't even a big C, it was a little C. So I may struggle a little bit through today, but I hope that you'll stick with me. But speaking about public speaking, I want to share with you a story about me as a young individual growing up in the western part of this state, young kid, and the transformative power of education. And I think you all would agree that education, regardless of the level, has a transformation process for individuals. And I was terrified as a public speaker, but I knew in order to go to Murray State University, I had to take a high school course in public speaking, Deborah. Terrified. And my high school speech teacher called all of us in, there's 15 or 20 or so, and as a part of graduating from that class, we had to go out in the community in this culminating event and deliver our speeches that we had prepared. So he called us up to his desk, and he sent one of my friends to the Lions Club, and one to the Optimist, and one to the Chamber, and one to Rotary, and he got to me, and he said, Jay, I'm going to send you to the Greenfield Ladies Club that meets at the Greenfield Baptist Church about 20 miles outside of town. And I finally said, Mr. Whitfield is my speech teacher, and I said, why do my friends get to go to these swanky places in town? You're sending me to the Greenfield Baptist Church Ladies Club. And he said, son, they are a very forgiving group. And you're going to need it as you work through some of your spells. But one of the things in the short story, and similar, he told us, he said, anytime you speak, you've got to have a wonderful beginning. So I got to the Greenfield Ladies Club, Baptist Church, 30, 35 ladies, white gloves, top hat, average age very respectful, 80 plus. Wonderful group, and they'd all sit down there on the pews right there. And I was up at the lectern at the podium where the preacher stood. Very unqualified to be a preacher. And I remember my speech teacher said, Jay, think of the best beginning to get their attention that you can and have a soft ending and you're going to be okay. So I stepped up to the podium and I said, and behold I come. In the church, and I froze. Just froze solid. And I remember he said, if you freeze or get so, just take a deep breath and do it again. So I took a step back and I gripped that podium and I said, and behold I come, Hal. And I froze again. And I was about ready to leave the church. And I thought, I'm going to do this one more time before I leave. And I stepped up for that third time and I gripped that podium and lectern. It's about 3 feet off the floor and ladies right here. And I said, Mark, and then behold I come. And that podium just tipped right over on top of 2 ladies about where Kelly is right here. And I jumped down off that stage and I said, oh ma'am, I'm so sorry. And I'm picking the podium up off of her. She stands up and she straightens her hat. She pulls her glove up. I thought she was going to sock me. And she stood up and she said, that's okay, Sonny. You warned me 3 times. Well, I'm not here to warn you today. I'm hopefully here to share with you some of the story of wonderful university for our state, and that's Morehead State University. Glad to see we've got some folks here today. As many of you know, Morehead is probably about 2 hours from here. I made it in about 2 hours today. You can do it about an hour 45, but that's state trooper dependent. But it's not too far down the road, and easy drive, as you know, just down the 64 corridor. Beautiful campus, kind of nestled where what we call the bluegrass meets the mountains. And literally about half our county is flat, the other half goes straight up. We just happen to be in a beautiful little bowl in the middle, a university of about 9,000 students. And I'm telling you what, in October and November, it is the most beautiful place in the world with the leaves changing, as well as everything except January and February. Known for academic excellence and small class sizes, our average class size is about 15. And we do that intentionally. We do that because we want students to have that very, very, very close association with their faculty member. And we've been able to elevate our rankings and reputation to be the number 14 public regional university in the South, number 14 in the South, just in my 8 years that I've been in Morehead. A tremendous ranking, and shows a lot of the strength that we have. And as you look at our academic programs, I'm going to touch on space science in a minute, a little bit deeper, but I did want to kind of tee up because we have a lot of students come to our campus with the Craft Academy. Lots of students from Louisville and Jefferson County, Bullitt, Shelby, surrounding counties, and really probably you can see kind of a gentle lean there, probably with about I-65 corridor and going east. The Craft Academy is, Lori, a whole lot like Breck was many years ago. It's 12th and 11th graders who live and learn on our campus. Think about this, a 16-year-old student entering junior year of high school, leaves mom and dad, and goes to college full-time. And they finish high school, first 2 years of college, in 2 years between age 16 and 18. These are rocket science, folks. Brilliant STEM majors, 99% are STEM majors. Physics, electrical engineering, chemistry, biomedicine, the list goes on. Such brain power. I don't want to tell you what I was thinking about doing at age 16, but these folks are wonderful. And that academy really serves what we call this half of the state. And I point that out to you because you may know some individuals who have attended the academy. It's full paid education. You can't beat that. Wonderful, wonderful folks. Your president and others, Ashley, as kind of a cue up to this, asked me if I would kind of dig a little bit deep into one of our boutique programs, and that's space science. Now, I first want to say, when I was at the Council on Post-Secondary Education in Frankfurt, before going to Morehead State years ago, somebody mentioned to me, come see our space science program. I had to do that a little bit. Space science in Eastern Kentucky. And when I went and looked at the program, I was speechless, folks, absolutely speechless. Our university over the years has grown a space science program that is really one of 5 in the whole world that has a capability, and I'm going to show you here in a few minutes of some things we do. We have a baccalaureate degree in space science, 100% placement rate. We have a master's program in space science with 100% placement rate, and they're usually 6-figure jobs at the point of entry. And we're also beginning, literally right now, it's standing up, is a doctorate in space systems engineering that will get going here pretty soon and be one of very few doctoral programs in space science in the country. And you find them at Ohio State, you find them in California, you find them in Florida, but it's interesting to note you're going to see one in Eastern Kentucky. I'm going to share a little bit more about that with you. Some of our success, and I can take very little credit for it other than trying to bring in money for the program, because when these folks come in and talk to me, I just have to say, look, tell me how much money you need. I don't understand what you do. That's not my skill set. They build satellites, they track satellites, they do schematics, they do contract work. And I want to point out that this program is not paid for by the Commonwealth of Kentucky. It's paid for by monies that come out from outside of Kentucky through grants, contracts, deliverables, and products that we design and build on our campus in a laboratory that I cannot show you. You have to be carded in, security clearance, and we can only let certain people in because we build space satellites in there. We track space satellites in there. One of our most recent missions was the Artemis 1 mission. Probably now, I always get these dates wrong, probably almost 2 years ago now. And we built what's called the Lunar Ice Cube. Can't tell you a whole lot about it because of some confidentiality and Department of Defense and NASA aspects, but essentially it is you can see it there, it's a satellite that followed the mission, and when we were done with the mission, we crash landed the satellite into the moon to intentionally tear it up because we didn't want anyone else to get their hands on it. So that shows you some of the sensitivities that we deal with at the university. So we live off research and development with this center, but we also use those dollars to train students in space science. So if you're getting a baccalaureate degree, a master's degree, and soon to be a doctorate, Kentucky's not paying for that. These R&D contracts are, and you're actually working, if you can meet the security protocols, you're working in one of our buildings for space science, either tracking satellites or building them. We just put students to work. We just put them to work. There's probably not many other places that an 18-year-old freshman is going to get hands-on with a secure satellite, but they do at Morehead State University. I won't tell you a whole lot about the lunar missions and so forth, but that has been a little bit of our focus over the past couple of years, is falling in line with lunar-based missions. We do some other work and design work, but the lunar piece is a little bit of a boutique of what is a boutique program for our state and for our university. And we'll go through all the trajectory with you, but we work very closely with NASA, the Department of Defense, other agencies that remain are unnamed, Intuitive Machines, Microsoft, the list goes on and on and on. These are well-known companies that are in your bailiwick, and you may own stock in some of them, and some of them are unknown government entities, and quite frequently we have planes that land in Morehead at the airport and deliver these individuals and components, and then exit these individuals and components, and we have to keep them secure right there on our campus. It's really a neat process, some of which I'm unable to view for the large majority of it. So, and what's happening around this kind of this lunar mission piece and others is building the satellites for these missions and for other spacecraft missions. We transport a lot of them down to Alabama, and particularly to Florida, some to California, but most of them go to Florida. A few of them go out of the country, but there's some sensitivity there over the years and security issues. Some go to the Department of Defense installations, and they're deployed for safety, security, research, development, innovation, all across the pendulum. And around that, we're beginning to see small incubator businesses pop up around our community in eastern Kentucky. Groups want to be located close to us, hire our graduates. So we're beginning to see over the past 5, 6, 7 years, incubator businesses that are coming in. We have contracts with those individuals, or they have contracts with us to do certain things. And that growing aerospace industry in Kentucky is becoming a fairly significant dollar generator over time. I give this to you in a map because there's 5 bullets down in the left-hand side of it. And you're probably stretching your eyes from the back row back here, but there's 5 bullets in the left-hand side. And they're jargon that is not going to mean a whole lot to you or I, unless you're a physicist or an aerospace individual. But these are ground tracking stations all around the world. There's 5 of them that can do the in-depth, top secret analysis that we can do. One of them sitting 2 hours from here. So we have tracking satellites that are on our campus, some off of our campus, some you can get to, some you cannot. And I mentioned we build lunar satellites that go into space, but we also have R&D and defense contracts to where we track satellites. We don't build them, but we may enter into a contract with Department of Defense, NASA, Jet Propulsion Center, X, Y, Z, ABC agency to track their satellites. And our individuals will go into secure rooms and they will track these satellites and monitor them because we have a lower cost of business. This is a business, folks. We have a lower cost of business than what you might find if you were to deploy or contract with someone from Southern Cal or Florida Tech or you name the university or other business. We can do it at a lower cost because our cost of labor is expensive, folks. These folks are expensive. But it is cheaper to live in eastern Kentucky or in our general region. Cost of living, we can offer that contract much cheaper. And we derive a lot of our revenue for this program and otherwise. But there's 5 in the country, or excuse me, in the world. You can kind of see the dots there that can do the in-depth analysis for deep space tracking in what we do, just 2 hours away from you. This is just a sampling of the satellites that track, not the ones we build, but the ones that we have contracts for. And stop and think about this for a minute. This is, to me, it clicked on me one day. Why these satellites are in a moderately rural, they're in town, they're up on the side of a mountain that's anchored behind our campus. Think about this for a minute. You want satellites in an unobstructed area, high up for security purposes. There's security around it. You can't get up there through certain gates and other security features for less interruption. And that dawned on me, hey, this is a perfect place to do this. So this is an example of the satellites that we use to track satellites. We derive that data, and then we will upload that or deliver it to the respective agency, or the agency will come to us. They will fly in, land at our local airport, about 10 miles outside of town, bring their staff there, monitor it, get the data, and then they'll leave. So Kentucky is doing some very, very interesting things in the world of aerospace, and a lot of it really goes unnoticed. If you were to walk around our campus, you would look at an aerospace engineer, you would know who he was or she was because they look like an aerospace engineer. And they're brilliant. They teach classes like everyone else. But to look around the staff, you would just think, gosh, there's somebody eating at McDonald's next to me. But this person just came in from NASA. Or this person just came in from somewhere outside our country. So very interesting program. And we welcome you to come see that to the degree we can at some point. We also have a number of top-ranked programs. I'll touch on them very quickly. One that we have people flock to, the #1 program in Kentucky, number 13 nationally ranked, is our veterinary science, veterinary technology program. It's an undergraduate program that trains budding veterinary students who go to veterinary school, usually at Auburn, Ohio State, Missouri, etc., but also trains 4-year veterinary technicians to do surgery and other things. So when you take your cat or dog or horse or whatever in, there's a decent likelihood that some of the technicians have been either 4-year trained or certificate trained or otherwise through our program. It's a wonderful program. We also are building, this just happens to be one under construction right now, a new veterinary science building. It kind of looks like a clinic feel. We model it just like a clinic, like you might walk in, out here just somewhere outside of town or next county over, to have that feel of a veterinary clinic, and that's under construction as we speak. Our veterinary science program is strong, it's accredited. We have students come from multiple states who will come and want to live and learn on our university farm. And again, we pride ourselves, gentlemen here coming, in hands-on experience. If you are a student on our campus, one of our biggest assets, I believe, is getting students immersed in laboratories, and in this case, maybe out at the farm with horses, cattle, small animals, etc. And even if you're on our campus, getting hands-on experience in laboratories, because we believe that that's the pathway forward. A couple of years ago, and you might agree, during COVID, I hate to even think that far back, 4 or 5 years ago, during COVID, we quickly realized that a lot of the hands-on experiences that high school students had were not as strong as they were prior to COVID. Less internships, small businesses didn't hire as much, big business. Students, probably, and that would be true probably for U of L and schools across our state, Morehead State and others, high school students did not have the work experience. That could be everything from the Dairy Queen to a veterinary school or a veterinary clinic. They didn't have the experiences because they were hobbled either through had to wear a mask, stay at home, isolate, don't touch me, don't go here. Whatever the circumstance was, we found several years where students all across Kentucky, even more exacerbated than prior to COVID, did not have work experience as a high school student, was working at the Dairy Queen or working wherever. And we had to drop back, much like other schools, and double and triple down on how to give students, we already prided ourselves in hands-on experience. We had to double and triple down on how to interject more hands-on experience for students to make up for that skill gap. Student didn't do anything wrong, high school student didn't do anything wrong. It was just a product of where our country was at the time, trying to navigate the complexities and the briar patch of COVID. Glad to say we're out of that, we're seeing some light, but we took that opportunity to triple down and we really impress upon our students to complete an internship, regardless of your major, journalism, biomedicine, veterinary science, accounting, we don't care what your major in, you need to do an internship. It's a proven fact, we ran some studies, that a student who graduates from college, regardless of major, if they complete one internship, one formalized internship, I don't mean a year-long one, maybe a summer, maybe a semester, maybe some component thereof, their starting base salary, on average at the point of graduation, is about $7,000 plus more than a person who had the same major, same experience, but didn't do the internship. Think about that. 7,000+ added on average to your starting base compensation. I think that speaks to employers just will pay a little extra or want someone that's got that extra touch of experience. So regardless if you're at an institution 50 feet away from us or 2 hours away from us, please support students and internships and work opportunity because it is ever so important to do so. And this experience going through, they have to do internships and clinical externships. We're also building a $100 million science and engineering building as we speak. The pillars are going in right now, and this will house state-of-the-art biomedicine, physics, chemistry, engineering, and what we call kind of fringe hard sciences. And we're constructing that building because our campus is swinging extremely hard toward applied and hard and physical sciences. Very, very hard. Morehead State University, many years ago, served the state well, served the region well. It was really known, much like Murray and others, as teacher training schools years ago. We trained teachers, and that's how Murray, Morehead, et cetera, and some of the regionals were born back in their early years. They were teacher training schools. They did other things, but that was really the crux. That has swung completely in the last 10 years to where a very clear majority of our students clustering the applied and hard sciences. Agriculture, talked to an incoming student over here. Agriculture, biochemistry, physics, space science, mathematics, the list goes on. And we are ever so quickly becoming kind of a STEM central. That's not because we've geared it that way, it's because that's the influx. And this new building will really push forward those programs that we have right now. We're also building another new building. We're building 5 or 6 buildings all at once. I think we're crazy as we speak. We just thought we'd just get it over with. But our second building is a new building. The left side of this building is a new music building with a concert auditorium. It kind of looks like a gym, but that's the concert auditorium. And the right side, which you can't really see, it's really 2 buildings hooked together with a little walkway portico. The right side is our new College of Business. We're moving them out of an older building and building really 2 buildings just connected with a walkway, and that project is moving forward also. We're also building 2 or 3 new residence halls, again, all at once. We're not, we're crazy. This particular one just happens to be the one that's outpacing the other 2. Prefontaine Hall is a new residence hall. I want to call our architecture out a little bit because we have a collegiate Gothic style of architecture. You can kind of see these 3-point arches, the spirals. A lot of our older buildings, Laura, you remember them, they have gargoyles on the top looking down, almost like a Hogwarts look. I never was a fan of those shows and books, but a lot of old stone masonry that's beautiful that you can't replicate anymore. We just have to put the spirals on down, the 3-point arches. But a lot of our architecture, we're kind of going back and capturing some of the architecture of years gone by for nostalgia's sake. Much like you here and across Kentucky, we take a lot of pride, Ken, that's part of your world, and our basketball team. And I put this slide up sometimes on campus because I kid our basketball coach that this was probably our first basketball team. I don't know when the picture was taken, probably we think around the turn of the century, and they didn't know such words like NIL and transfer portal and some of those things that we have to deal with now. There may have just been only 5 on the team, I don't know. So with that, I kind of use this to show how the world of athletics has changed over time, and whether it's good or bad, or whether you sit in the middle and are still trying to judge it, we're having to deal a whole lot with institutional university athletics, regardless of what conference that you're in, and we're not immune to that either. We take a lot of pride in our basketball team and have a lot of good runs of luck over the past couple of years. Probably much like many of you that may either support local team or teams across the state or elsewhere. This is a new day in college athletics. Now, I won't do a deep dive into it, but my pass along to you is the regional schools, the Murrays and the Moreheads and the Northerns and the Westerns and Easterns and others. We are not immune to it either. We're chasing NIL dollars. We're frustrated with the transfer portal. We're chasing coaches. How do you keep? Years ago, we used to fret, how do we keep a good coach? Now the conversation is, how do you keep a good coach and how do you keep all your players? Because times have changed, and that's part of the adaptation that we're having to kind of bend some of our decision-making around. Some of it is beneficial, some of it is frustrating, and again, people sit kind of in different corners in how they view that. But that trajectory and frustration is happening at the regionals across our state well. So even if you go back to maybe 100 years ago to today, you know, we pride ourselves in a wonderful basketball team, much like others. And 16 different sports at the university: football, basketball, baseball, softball, volleyball, soccer, etc. Fairly traditional, 16, 17 sports. I think we just put in number 17, which was track. We've not had a track program for about 20 years, and we reinstituted that, and this is the first fall semester to have our track program back in about 2 decades. So with that, we push our athletic programs forward and certainly invite you to come at any time and visit with us in that accord. And actually play here some, occasionally for tournaments and other games. And happy to capture graduates and other people that just want to come and support. So with that, I do realize the 1 o'clock time is a little bit in the distance here, and I want to reserve President Ken a little bit of time for a question or two or three, and if they're difficult, I'll have one of our vice presidents call you back. But it's been a pleasure to visit with you, and thank you for allowing an Eagle to come over and spend some time with you here in Cardinal Country, and spend a lot of time on the campus here, and actually in this center, this very center. I served as the Chief Academic Officer for the state of Kentucky before coming to Morehead State University as president of the Council on Post-Secondary Education, and used to spend a lot of time in this building. It just happened to be kind of the easiest building on campus to get to, at dinners and functions and other things. A lot of wonderful memories here, and it's great to see some people. I saw Tony DeFerry here earlier, I don't know where he went. Pete there and other graduates, and hopefully prospective students, and maybe some of you that just came to campus for a party along the way over time. So, President Ken, we'll pause there for questions.
I'm Susan Zafaya, and hearing about more about your exciting space program, I'm worried about the impact of federal contract withdrawals and freezes. That's the first question. Second one, you guys have a little hidden gem in the Folk Arts Center that has drawn people from all over the region and all over the country. Are you able to preserve that going forward?
Yes, let's start first with the Folk Arts Center. We have on campus what's called the Kentucky Folk Arts Center. I'm going to describe it in quick definition as kind of non-traditional regionalized art. There may be traditional art there, but a lot of sculptures, a lot of wood carvings and furniture and things scattered all through the Appalachian region. Absolutely beautiful. The funding was reduced for it 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago, I can't remember. We've been able, luckily, to preserve and keep that open, and do have plans to continue to do that. Second to that, your other question?
Cuts and freezes.
Cuts and freezes to research, development, grants, and contracts. We have not been immune to some grant reductions, although probably not as bad as some schools have been. Now, with respect to space science, and just very quickly, most of those are through contracts, not grants. So the contracts have continued at a pretty good pace. Knock on wood type substance, they'll continue to do that. So I think right now, I don't want to call this immune, but we seem to have gotten off pretty good in retrospect and kind of looking at a broader piece. So thank you.
We went through the internet revolution and social media, everybody kind of went crazy. Now it's AI. How is that impacting postgraduate education, public education? How are you combating people maybe not learning, arguably, and taking advantage of ChatGPT or whatever?
Yeah, well, I wish I knew all the answers around. The question was about artificial intelligence, and there's different forms of it that escalate. We have teams across campus that are actively, I'm going to use the word, trying to understand this. I don't know that anybody is an expert, and if they are, I'm not quite sure if that is truly the case. So we're all still trying to digest this. We have teams that are working on it. To give an example, my wife and I were trying to update an old document where we were kind of settling her father's estate. And we fed it through PDF and put it in, and fed it through AI, and I was amazed what it came. It looked like it was a brand new legal document, just from an old 30-some-odd-year type document. So AI is moving quickly. I'm not for sure in full acknowledgement. We're moving as quickly as AI is, but we're trying. Yeah.
Dr. Morgan, Ashley Brower with Next Strategic Communications. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
And thank you. Last summer, Morehead invited our leadership Kentucky class in, and we toured the Space Science Center, and it is absolutely impressive. It has to hold like $1 million satellite. It's very, very cool. What you guys have going on there is just incredible. We learned about, I know beyond the Craft Academy, you have programs for lower than high school, younger than high school students. And I know capturing, especially girls, attention to STEM early is so important. Could you kind of speak to how you guys are reaching out and trying to develop your students far before they
Well, thank you for the question, and I knew you did come to campus and glad you enjoyed it. We do have boutique programs like we talked about with craft and space, and there are others, but these kind of rise to the top of probably your interest here. And relative to that, we spend quite a bit of time drilling all the way down to about 5th grade. And we have significant grants through ARC and others to where we specialize in women in STEM. Actually, I don't know where you went to sit back there. Just to use an example, presidents don't let people get behind them. Just to use an example, keep her back to the wall and face to the door. Just to use an example, we have a very, very large STEM grant, multi-million-dollar, multi-year grant from the ARC to bring young ladies to our campus, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 8th, 9th grade, to begin immersing them and seeding them in STEM disciplines. And it's 2 of the 3 of our children are females, the oldest 2. And as a dad, thinking about those opportunities, that's very positive because, number one, I'm not female, number 2, I couldn't have made it through those programs academically. But we are actively trying to increase the number of young ladies in STEM, and our space science program, I think this may have been up there, is elevated. About 38% of all of our students are STEM, and that's a strong number when you're kind of looking at programs like that. That's just one of many examples where we believe that education starts really early, but we also use it as a recruiting pipeline as well. No, we've got a few others now.
I'm Dr. Aaron Stevenson. I'm wondering about the veterinary tech at your school. Kentucky doesn't have veterinary school, I understand. And I still have interest about your tech program. The second thing of it is, what about medical school? I understand you're expanding with the University of Kentucky, to expand medical education in the state as well.
Yes, I'll start with veterinary school first. Kentucky does not have a veterinary professional school. I think there's some conversations about maybe what to do there. Most of the students in Kentucky go through contract slots down to Auburn, Tuskegee, and a few other schools. We have not had interest at our school on a professional veterinary school. We wouldn't shy away from one. They are so expensive to operate, so we've not wanted to get in that game. I don't know what the correct placement is for the Commonwealth on veterinary schools, and that's probably not as germane a discussion with us, but to your secondary point about medical programs, we have, the University of Kentucky has been expanding their health sciences and purchasing hospitals throughout Northeast Kentucky, Ashland, Morehead, et cetera, et cetera. And as a product of that, they have a PA program that is coupled with our university that's expanding, physician's assistant program. And then we also have kind of a co-partnership, although University of Kentucky really owns it, leads it, operates it, a rural physician program where students may come to University of Kentucky med school for a year or 2, and then everything else is done in Morehead in relation to our regional hospital there. So I think for the healthcare world, it's good because finding rural providers is sometimes difficult. But I commonly say we're not mutually exclusive. We are very open to working with other schools around medical education, veterinary education, and if other institutions, either be it here next door or otherwise, if we think it's good for our students and we feel like it's good for the region, we're very willing to get in those discussions because they're not mutually exclusive. Just
My name's Charles Conslow. Two things. Number one, I had the opportunity in Rotary of hearing the president of U of L and U of K speak, and you might want to give them the name of the person who brought them up to speak.
I got to see you public speak.
But on a more serious note, when they were talking about the policies on the university, all they were talking about is we will comply with the law of the state of Morehead. Never giving any kind of meat of how are you going to handle bringing in international students, which you talked about, and directing the programs away from the government.
You know, that we could spend the rest of the day and maybe even give you 3 hours credit for some discussion around that. In just a couple of minutes and finishing up, that there are changes nationally, whether they're coming from DC, accrediting agencies, Commonwealth, individual accrediting units that might accredit, an individual program or other ones. And I've said this honestly and very straightforward in General Assembly testimony and public and Rotaries. Morehead State University over the years, I'm talking about way before I came to Morehead, is really concentrated, I believe, on student success. They've kept the main thing, and that's educating a student. I don't feel like, in my particular view, that our institution has got caught up in some of the national things, even going back decades. I'm not talking about anything recent or political or otherwise. It's Morehead State University has been focused on students, what's good for students, teaching, high quality teaching in the classroom. I mentioned that 1 to 15, the faculty to student ratio. That's on average. There are a few larger, a few smaller. Individual work in labs and studios and field trips and conferences and other things. And I say that because when some of the national climate, started changing, it's been slowly changing for years. We didn't have a very hard turn. We had very few DEI initiatives, and that's not because we either believed in it or didn't believe in it. It's just we tried to support all students for student success and high quality teaching. And we didn't have a whole lot of money to put other places. It all was plowed into the classrooms. So when you see national topics, grants, contracts, DEI, a variety of other things, I'm confident in saying, and I've relayed this to the General Assembly in testimony, we had very little change because we've always focused on the student, and at least in my time at Morehead, hopefully in the future, that will continue. And I think that's what students that we serve need, and we try not to get caught up in all the other stuff, for good or bad, political or non-political. I make no judgment either way, other than we're just going to keep our eyes and focus on the students and student success. But we didn't have a whole lot of changes that we had. Thank you. As a Rotarian for 15, 16 years, I hit that 5th point of the 4-way tail.
Thank you. The original Rotary International team. There you go. All right, next week is closeout of July 31st. We're going to have Dan Dry speak to us. He is a terrific photographer. He is also the managing director of Price Weber Content Creation Studio. His talks telling stories through the small screen. So there'll be a visual presentation with tips for using your phone camera and how to visually tell stories about what you photograph. So it'll be practical, useful. So please come to the meeting, RSVP now through the QR code on the screen or anytime between now and noon Monday. And if you are a guest, welcome again. And if you want to stick around to talk a little bit Rotary, please do. We'd love to have you. Especially those that have been here before. And then have a great week. Stay cool. We are adjourned.